Good afternoon, students, and welcome back to the class of macroeconomics. In previous class, we have discussed about the demand and supply of money. In that, we have discussed that what are the factors which are affecting demand for money, and we have also discussed about the supply of money. In that, we have started with the various factors that are going to affect the money supply in any economy. Now today we are going to continue with the same. So there are number of factors which are affecting the money supply in economy. First one is bank credit to the government or government's borrowing from the public sector. This we have already discussed, that in order to finance the war operations or non-developmental expenditure or developmental expenditure which occurs whenever the government's revenue falls. Therefore, whenever government's budget is not adequate, then government have to borrow money from the central bank by reducing their cash balances or by creation of new money. Reducing their balances means like every bank has to keep money with the RBI. Similarly, government also keeps money with RBI in the form of cash reserve. So either government have to reduce their cash reserve or they have to create a new money. This creation of new money is known as a deficit financing. On the other hand, if government follows the policy of surplus budgeting, then there is a reduction in the supply with the people. That means if there is a deficit financing is done, then the money supply with the public will increase, and if there is a surplus, then the money supply with the people will decrease. And similarly, government can borrow from the commercial banks against their own security, whatever securities they are having. By pledging that, they can borrow from the commercial banks. So government can borrow money either from the uh, central bank or from the commercial bank. Now second factor that affects the money supply is bank credit to the private sector. Now bank is providing credit to the various private sector that players, like it may be your traders, it may be businessmen, industrialists. So they are providing finance to them, and sometimes they are also providing money to the consumers for purchasing the consumer goods. Now these lendings are going to increase the money supply in the economy, because whatever money is borrowed by the business entrepreneurs or business in the form of loan from bank will be used for increasing the production, and this money will go to the public in the form of various rewards. So money available with the public will increase. Third thing is balance of payment situation. Like if balance of payment is a systematic record of all the transaction of one nation with rest of the world. So balance of payment, if it is a favorable, and then also it is going to affect your money supply. If it is adverse, then also it is going to affect your money supply. So that when there is an adverse balance of payment, that means we have imported more and exported less. So adverse balance of payment means the foreign exchange reserves will be reduced in the country, and we have to make payment to the exporters. So by the amount by which we are making payment to the foreign exporters, that then that amount by that amount the money supply in the economy is going to reduce. If however there is a deficit in the balance of payment, it is met with the external assistance. That means if we have met the uh, that deficit in balance of payment by external borrowing, then the money supply in our economy is not going to decrease. So money supply is going to decrease due to balance of payment situation only if it is financed by using the money in our own country. Fourth factor that is affecting your money supply is velocity of circulation of money. Now velocity of circulation means the speed at which money is moving in economy. or we can say the number of times the money changes hands in economy is known as a velocity of money. So till now we have considered the concept of money supply as the total stock of money that is at a particular point of time. But if we want to know the money supply over a period of time, then we have to consider the velocity of circulation of money, which is an important factor which is going to affect your money supply. So velocity of circulation of money will be used if we want to know the money supply over a period of time, flow concept. Whereas at a point of time it is a stock concept, so we have to consider total quantity of money. Whereas if we are concerned about the money supply over a period of time, then we have to consider the velocity of circulation of money. So further we know that supply of money refers to the total quantity of money which includes paper currency, coins and bank deposit. If you remember, while discussing money supply, we discussed that money supply is C plus DD plus OD. That means C means currency. So currency can be in the form of coin or paper, and bank deposit, that is C plus DD. Bank deposit we include only demand deposits, not time deposit. So your total quantity of money will be comprising of your C plus DD. This total quantity of money, that is cash and bank deposit, does not remain idle, but it circulates over the period of time. Therefore, when we have to consider the total supply of money in the economy during a given period of time, at that time we should take into account not only the total quantity of money but also velocity of circulation of money. That means the money which is available in the form of stock, how quickly it is moving in economy, that will determine the money supply over a period of time. By velocity of circulation of money, we mean the average number of time each unit of money circulates and is used for the transaction. For according to Professor Benham, the velocity of circulation of money is the average number of times a unit of money is spent during a period, say a year under consideration. If we are measuring the money supply over a period of 1 year, then for an entire year, how many times the money has moved in the economy, that will be part of your velocity of money. Now each piece of money may be used several number of times. That means money is not one time usable thing. That means the currency notes once issued, it can be used n number of times. So now each time a coin or a paper currency note or a bank check changes hands for buying good, it adds to the supply of money. For example, if a 10 rupee note is used 5 times in a day for buying goods and services worth 50 rupees, then the money supply will be 50. For example, like if I travel by an auto and I have paid 10 rupees to him. So auto driver has got the income of 10 rupees. Auto driver have used this 10 rupees for drinking tea. Then tea stall owner will get a 10 rupee. So there are 3 people who have used this 10 rupees. First person is myself, second person is auto driver, third person is tea stall owner. So 10 into 3. So the total money supply will be 30. Therefore, the average number of times that a unit of money changes hands for buying goods and services is known as circulation of money. This is regarding the various factors affecting the supply of money. Now, we can put this statement in the form of a equation. That is your total money supply, M into V plus M dash into V dash, where M denotes total quantity of legal tender money. Legal tender money means the money which is issued by the government or the financial authority of a country, which includes coins, paper notes, etc. V indicates the velocity of circulation of legal tender money, that is the money which is issued by government. M dash is the representative money, that is credit money or bank money, and V dash is the circulation of bank money. So when we add the physical quantity, that is M into V will indicate stock, whereas M dash into V dash will indicate the money which is circulating in economy in the form of bank credit. So this equation we are going to discuss in detail while discussing the quantity theory of money. So for time being, you have to remember that M into V plus M dash into V dash represents the total supply of money, where M is the legal tender money, M dash is the bank money or the money which we have deposited in a bank. So that is regarding the concept of demand for money and supply of money. Now we have to start with another chapter that is known as your quantity theory of money. Now after understanding the demand for money and supply of money, we have to understand that what determines the value of money. So the value of money keep on changing. So what are the factors that are going to affect your value of money? So in this chapter we are going to study about the quantity theory of money, which is given by the various economists, classical and modern economists. So first of all, we have to understand the introduction. In that, the quantity theory of money seeks to explain the factors that determine the general price level in any country. The theory states that the price level is directly determined by the supply of money. There are three main versions of quantity theory of money. These three versions are the transaction approach, the cash balance approach, and modern approach. Now before that, let us have some detailed introduction of the quantity theory of money. The quantity theory of money is based on the common observation that things are more valuable when they are scarce and less valuable when they are plentiful. This is the fact that was stated by the QTM. So what does the QTM says? The larger the quantity of money, the lower will be the value of money, and vice versa. That means anything which is available in more quantity will have a less value, and anything which is available in less quantity will have a more value. We can take example of water and petrol. Water is available in more quantity, so it is having less value. Petrol is available in less quantity, so it is having more value. Same thing is applied on the money also. If money is available in more quantity, its value is going to fall or value is going to be less. Whereas if the money is available in a less quantity, then its value is going to be more. Therefore, in simple word, QTM says that if the quantity of money is doubled, then other thing remaining constant, the value of money will be halved, and price level will also be double. So the QTM tries to explain the concept of value of money through change in the price level. So whenever quantity of money is changing in economy, the price level is going to change, and due to price level, the money value is also going to change. That is what quantity theory of money is telling us about the value of money. So there are three versions: the transaction approach, the balance approach, and the modern approach. So the transaction approach of QTM is associated with well-known American economist Professor Irving Fisher. If you have studied in your statistics about the index number, it was given by the Irving Fisher. So he is the same person, Irving Fisher. So according to Irving Fisher, the theory points out that changes in the quantity of money will bring about direct and proportionate change in the price level, and hence an inversely proportionate change in the value of money. That is what I told you in the beginning. That means if the quantity of money is doubled, then the price level will also double and the value of money is going to be half. In other words, an increase in quantity of money will lead to the fall in its value. That is, the price will rise, and decrease in the quantity of money will lead to rise in the value. That means a fall in the price. So we can say that quantity of money and price level are directly related, whereas quantity of money and value of money are inversely related. Fisher's equation of exchange. Fisher considered the exchange function of money. That is, Fisher considered the basic function of money. That is, money is demanded only for the purpose of medium of exchange. So he considered the first function of or basic function of money. That is, money is nothing but it is a medium of exchange. Therefore, this equation is known as a equation of exchange or transaction equation. In his well-known book, Irving Fisher has written a book in 1911. In his well-known book, Irving Fisher presented a more refined version of QTM in terms of equation, which tries to explain the relationship between quantity of money and value. This equation is known as a equation of exchange and can be stated as follows. So the equation can be MV is equal to PT, or we can say P is equal to MV divided by T. So in that we can analyze that your MV indicates your supply of money and PT indicates your demand for money, because the money is demanded for the purpose of buying goods and services. So total value of all the goods and services, total value of all the goods and services can be known by multiplying P into T, whereas the total supply of money will be known by multiplying M into V. That is, we have seen in the previous that chapter that M into V is going to indicate your supply of money and PT indicates your demand for money. So therefore these two things must be equal. That means money is demanded only for the purpose of buying goods and services. Therefore the amount spent on buying goods and services must be equal to the supply of money. If there is a disequilibrium between these two, then it will create a problem of surplus and deficit. So right now we have to remember MV is equal to PT, or we can say P is equal to MV upon T is the Fisher's cash transaction approach, or we can say equation of exchange. This equation is also known as a cash transaction equation, which implies that quantity of money determines the price level. That is, the price level varies directly with the quantity of money. I told you earlier that if the quantity of money is doubled, then price level will also be double. So it moves directly with the quantity of money. However, in this equation, only primary money or currency is considered. But in view of the fact that in modern economy, bank money or credit money also plays an important role, Fisher equation can be modified or extended to the modern economy. If you remember, in the supply of money, we have seen that supply of money is equal to M into V plus M dash into V dash. So M into V indicate your legal tender money, which is shown in this equation. MV is your legal tender money, that is the amount of money over a sorry, at a particular point of time, whereas over a period of time we have to consider the circulation. So thus the extended form of equation of quantity theory of money can be rewritten as mv plus m dash v dash is equal to pt, or p is equal to m into v plus m dash into v dash divided by t. From this equation, the two main uh, points emerges, or there are two main points that can be known from the above equation. First is that p, the price level changes because the quantity of money changes and not otherwise. That means until and unless the quantity of money is changing, price is not going to change. So it is the quantity of money that alone affect the price level. Second, price level changes directly and in the same proportion as the quantity of money. So price level and quantity of money is directly and equally proportional to each other. That means if the quantity of money is doubled, then price will also get double. If the price quantity of money is halved, then the price is also going to be half. Now this theory is based on certain assumptions. Now these assumptions are, first assumption is that p is a passive factor. There are two types of factor: active factor, passive factor. Active factor is affecting other factors, whereas passive factor gets affected by other factor. So p is a passive factor. That means p is not going to affect anything, but p is going to be affected by quantity of money, which means that the price level, that is p, is passive factor, which means it does not change by itself, nor it cause change in any other elements in the equation. However, it is affected by other elements in the equation. So p is not going to affect any other element, but all other elements are going to affect your p. That is, p is going to be affected by m, v, or t. Second assumption is that volume of transaction, that is T, must remain same. That means during the analysis or at a particular period of time, the volume of transaction is assumed to be constant. It is not going to change during analysis. So according to Fisher, the total volume of transaction depends on non-monetary factors like natural resources, technological development, population, etc., which are outside this equation or which are not a part of this equation. Therefore, any change in M will affect the change on T. That means any change in M will have no effect on the T. That means ki any change in the money is not going to affect your transaction. On the contrary, your transaction is going to affect your money supply. Further, another assumption of this theory is the velocity of circulation of money must remain constant. That means the speed at which money is rotating or changing hands must remain constant. If it changes, if the velocity is increased, then the value of money or the transaction will be fast and the value of money will be affected. Therefore, it is assumed that velocity of circulation of money must remain constant or same during the analysis. Fourth assumption is the volume of bank money must be related to the volume of legal tender money in a definite ratio, which means that there is a fixed ratio in which people are going to keep their money in the form of cash and in the bank. That means M dash is in fixed proportion of M. For example, if 20% of total money will be kept in a bank, then M indicates, let us say if 100 rupees, M indicates 100 rupees, then M dash is having a fixed ratio, that is 20% if ratio is there 20%, then out of this 100 only 20 rupees will be kept in a bank. So if the 100 m increases to 200, then m dash will increase to 40 rupees. That means the ratio is going to remain same. So it is in percentage. If a person is keeping 20% of total money in bank, then whatever change is taking place in legal tender money, 20% of that will be kept in a bank. That is fixed ratio. Fifth assumption is there is no change in the volume of barter transaction. That is, the volume of transaction carried out without the money must remain same. That means the economy is also having a transaction without money, that is barter system. So whatever transactions were carried out without money, they must be carried out in a same proportion. If the transaction which were carried out with the help of money also started that traded or started doing without money, then your money supply is going to be affected. Therefore it is said that your barter transactions are assumed to be same. Sixth assumption is the theory assumes long period of time and existence of full employment in economy. So it is assumed that there is a long run analysis, or economy is operating in a long run and at full employment level in the economy. Here we have to remember that full employment does not mean 0% unemployment. Full employment means that the involuntary unemployment is minimum, or we can say there is minimum level of unemployment in the economy. That is your full employment level in economy. So in next class we are going to start with the criticisms of quantity theory of money. So there are certain criticisms of QTM also. So in next class we will be discussing about the criticisms of quantity theory of money.